Tonight, rescue crews battling brutal conditions in the High Sierra, powering through up to 8 feet of fresh snow, searching for a missing skier, now presumed dead. Their group of 15 trapped when a snowy mountainside gave way, caught in an avalanche the size of a football field. Authorities confirming while crews rescued 6 people overnight, today's search teams found 8 experienced skiers dead.
Someone saw the avalanche, yelled avalanche, and then it overtook them rather quickly.
Authorities say the danger isn't only from the nonstop snow and near whiteout conditions, but the fact it's falling on a weak, unstable layer, driving that avalanche risk up across a vast portion of the entire Sierra.
Officials say this group was run by Blackbird mountain guides to a popular area known as Castle Peak, the group on their final day. But just days before, Blackbird posting this video on Instagram with the caption, "Big storm incoming." The company says they are working in full coordination with authorities to support the ongoing rescue. Tonight, the community here grieving.
This is devastating. It affects us all.
The avalanche threat not isolated to California. In Europe, stunning video from avalanches in Italy and Switzerland this week. A stark reminder of the sheer power and unpredictability of mountain winters. Back in California, as rescuers race to find that remaining skier, an avalanche warning now extended.
All right, Morgan joins us now live. And Morgan, the snow is still falling where you are. We know they rescued at least 6 skiers. How are they doing?
Yeah, Tom, of those 6 skiers that were rescued overnight, we know 2 were taken to a nearby hospital to be treated. But tonight, we've learned that one of them has already been released and the other is expected to make a full recovery. In the meantime, the search remains very much ongoing to recover that missing skier.
President Barack Obama, Caroline, was recently asked if aliens are real. He says they're real, but he hasn't seen them. The president's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, told Miranda Devine of the New York Post that the president has a prepared speech on this issue that he prepares to deliver at the right time. Is that true? And does the Trump administration believe aliens are real?
Well, a speech on aliens would be news to me. That sounds very exciting, though. I'll have to check in with our speech writing team. And that would be of great interest to me personally, and I'm sure all of you in this room, and apparently former President Obama, too. So we'll keep you posted on that. Tyler.
The White House has touted an unprecedented amount of cooperation with counties in Minneapolis after the negotiations with Tom Homan. Are those written or verbal deals with the sheriff? How many have agreed to cooperate on immigration enforcement who previously refused to do so?
Yeah, the last time I spoke with Mr. Homan, which was just a few days ago, he assured us that nearly every single county in the state of Minnesota has agreed to notify ICE when they are releasing criminal illegal aliens from their jails. This is an unprecedented level of cooperation that we have not seen. It has led to not only cooperation to detain illegal aliens in Minnesota, which just this past week I have looked at the list. They've detained some very heinous people who none of you would want living in your communities, but has also led to a much more calm situation on the ground. We've also seen, and you've seen this with your own eyes play out, the local police and the state police have now cooperated in the arrests of left-wing agitators and criminals who are unlawfully obstructing immigration enforcement in their efforts. So this is a huge win, and again, the president sent Mr. Homan to Minnesota to do a job, and he has done it well, and I think think the situation on the ground proves that.
Are those like written agreements that they've been signed by various officials in the state?
These are agreements that have been made by state and local officials in the federal government, and we are seeing that cooperation play out every single day. These counties are notifying ICE when they are releasing criminal illegals from their jail, and we do know that they are arresting left-wing agitators who are unlawfully impeding law enforcement. There's video to show that. Show it yourself. You can view it with your own eyes.
Social media platforms in Gabon have been suspended until further notice, the country's media regulator announced on Tuesday. The body hasn't named any social media platforms that will be included in the ban. A spokesperson for the High Authority for Communication said defamatory, hateful, and insulting content is stoking conflict and division in society. He said the spread of false information, cyberbullying, and unauthorized disclosure of personal data are destabilizing government institutions and threatening democratic progress. The regulator said freedom of expression, including freedom of comment and criticism, remain a fundamental right enshrined in Gabon. President Brice Oligui Nguema is facing his first wave of social unrest less than a year after being elected. Teachers have been striking since December over pay and conditions, and protests have spread to other public sectors, including health, higher education, and broadcasting. Nguema won a presidential election in April, 2 years after leading a military coup.
There is a new threat near the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, and this one is unlike anything before. 800 kilometers from the Arunachal border, China is making moves. It is secretly expanding its nuclear weapons infrastructure. Satellite images have emerged. They show 2 facilities deep inside the Sichuan province of China. One facility is for testing. It tests the explosives that trigger nuclear warheads. The other facility is for manufacturing. It makes core components for nukes. Now, China already has more than 600 nuclear warheads. By the year 2030, they want this number to cross 1,000. They want 1,000 nuclear warheads. So they're building that capacity in secret in the mountains. Here is a full report.
Satellite images do not lie, and what they show inside China's mountains is significant. Nuclear facilities, expanding, quietly. Just 800 kilometers from India's border, according to one claim. Deep inside Sichuan province, China is building, not roads, not railways, nuclear weapons infrastructure. The New York Times reported satellite imagery analyzed by experts. The images show rapid expansion at 2 secretive sites, Zitong and Pingtong. Both trace their origins to Mao Zedong's Third Front program. The idea was simple: hide critical military industries deep inland. For decades, both sites went quiet. Then, around 2019, construction resumed. At Zitong Valley, satellite images show new bunkers and fortified ramparts. Experts believe the site tests high explosives, the kind used to compress nuclear material inside a warhead, to trigger a chain reaction. The testing area spans an oval space roughly the size of 10 basketball courts. This is not routine maintenance. Pingtong is considered even more sensitive. It is double-fenced. Experts believe it produces plutonium pits. A plutonium pit is the core component of a nuclear warhead, the heart of the bomb. The facility features a 360-foot ventilation stack, a hallmark of plutonium handling. Above the entrance, a slogan from President Xi Jinping reads, "Stay true to the founding cause and always remember our mission." The expansion does not stop at Sichuan. In nearby Mianyang, China is building a laser ignition facility. It allows warhead research without full-scale nuclear detonations. China can advance its nuclear program without triggering the alarms a live test would set off. Now step back. What does this mean for China's nuclear program? According to the United States Department of Defense, China had more than 600 nuclear warheads by the end of 2024. By 2030, that number is projected to cross 1,000. That would make China the third largest nuclear power on the planet, behind only Russia and the United States. Beijing calls its arsenal defensive, but the scale, the secrecy, and the pace say otherwise. There is also disorder inside China's own nuclear command. The leadership of the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force was purged. Reports cited corruption and operational failures. Missiles were allegedly found filled with water instead of fuel, and yet the expansion continues, at speed, in secrecy. So why does this matter for India? Sichuan's sites are far from coastal flashpoints like Taiwan, but they sit close to India's eastern sector. This inland location shields the facilities from U.S. strikes while maintaining strategic reach towards India. The nuclear expansion and the border buildup are separate on paper. In practice, they reinforce each other. A larger nuclear force gives Beijing confidence to apply pressure along disputed borders, on China's terms.
This is NATO's Steadfast Dart 26 military exercise on the Baltic Sea coast of northern Germany. And the purpose of the exercise is for European militaries to show that they can react swiftly and together in defense of the alliance. Out at sea are the Turkish and Spanish navies. They are running an amphibious raid demonstration here on the coast at Putlos, Germany. In total, there are 13 militaries participating in this operation with about 10,000 personnel. NATO's largest member, the United States, is not here participating in this particular exercise. So this is a view of what it looks like when Europe prepares to defend itself. The new NATO is Europe spending more on its own defense and being more self-sufficient.
We turn now to the Middle East and the breaking news tonight. A potential military strike on Iran could happen as soon as Saturday, according to top national security officials. President Trump has already positioned U.S. warships and fighter jets in the region as nuclear talks continue with Iran. Senior White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe has the latest. Ed, good evening. What are you hearing?
Tony, sources tell CBS News the president hasn't yet made a final decision on whether to strike. Conversations about potential military action are described as fluid and ongoing as the White House weighs the political and military risks of escalation. The president has said he would consider strikes if Iran doesn't agree to curb its nuclear weapons program. The Pentagon is moving some personnel temporarily out of the Middle East region over the next 3 days. They're headed primarily to Europe or back here to the U.S. ahead of any potential action or counterattacks by Iran.
All right, and Ed, you mentioned the military assets. What kind of assets are being sent there?
Well, there are usually at least 30 to 40,000 U.S. troops in the region. There are at least 11 warships right now, including the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the region. A second carrier group led by the USS Gerald Ford, plus 3 other ships is en route. 50 U.S. aircraft flew into the region just today. One potential military target is Iran's ballistic missile sites. The Israelis have been raising concerns about the increased development of Iran's missile program since a late December meeting with President Trump. He told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at that meeting he would support Israeli strikes on Iran's ballistic missiles if a nuclear deal can't be reached.
This is the latest from West Asia. Latest satellite images covering Iran's landscape have come to the fore. Latest images appearing show that Iran has recently built a concrete shield over a new facility at a sensitive military site and covered it with soil. Experts say Iranians are advancing work at a location reportedly bombed by Israel in 2024 amid tensions with the US. Images also show that Iran has buried tunnel entrances at a nuclear site bombed by the US during Israel's 12-day war with Iran last year. Fortified tunnel entrances near another and has repaired missile bases struck in the conflict. Some 30 kilometers southeast of Tehran, the Pachin complex is one of Iran's most sensitive military sites Western intelligence has suggested Tehran carried out tests relevant to nuclear bomb detonations there more than 2 decades ago. Iran has always denied seeking atomic weapons. Israel reportedly struck Pachin in October 2024.
The night sky over America suddenly got busier. Military radars, they were tracking unusual moment. Flight watchers began noticing patterns here. And defense analysts started asking one serious question. Is the US preparing for something bigger? Well, reports from open source monitoring accounts on X began circulating rapidly. They showed American aerial refueling aircraft taking off. Not from one base though, but from multiple locations. And the timing? Well, it immediately gathered global attention. The aircraft belonged to the United States Air Force. These were not any combat jets. They were flying fuel stations, aircraft designed to refuel fighter jets and bombers mid-air, allowing them to travel longer distances and stay in combat zones much longer. In fact, one of the most watched departures reportedly came from MacDill Air Force Base. Late at night, several refueling aircraft, they were tracked leaving the base. Their flight path, it moved northeast across American airspace, and that particular moment, it quickly sparked suspicion. At the very same time, more tanker aircraft, they are seen lifting off from another US location. Not randomly though, but in what appeared to be a coordinated deployment pattern. Here, military experts say that aerial refueling aircraft are rarely moved in clusters without strategic positioning here, because these aircraft act as force multipliers. They allow fighter jets, bombers and surveillance planes to stay operational for very long missions. In simple terms, they extend the reach of war planes. And this sudden activity, it comes amid the rising tension involving Iran, right? A country locked in long-running confrontation with the US over nuclear issues, regional influence and military presence in the Middle East. Well, the speculation intensified further because of the statements linked to US President Donald Trump. He repeatedly has taken a strong stance against Iran's nuclear program, and any military moment during such political messaging instantly attracts the global attention. Here, defense analysts say that tanker aircraft moment often signals one of the two possibilities: either large-scale military exercise or preparation for long-range operation. Well, both the scenarios involve high readiness level, and both sends a very strong signal to rival nations. In the meantime, the Middle East is already experiencing rising security tensions here. Strategic waterways remain sensitive, military patrol have increased, and diplomatic negotiations over Iran's nuclear program are facing fresh uncertainty. So, in the end, experts are warning that in modern warfare, it is the logistics moment that can be as important as troop movement.
The world is watching Geneva, but the real story may be unfolding far from the negotiating table. The United States and Iran say talks are making progress. They speak of guiding principles, of delays and deals, of diplomacy. But even as those words are spoken, Iran has fired live missiles and announced the temporary closure of the Strait of Hormuz. This is not just negotiation, this is nuclear diplomacy under the shadow of war.
US President Donald Trump has sent 50 new fighter jets to West Asia in a show of force to Iran. F-22s, F-35s, F-16s now hover over the region. This is in addition to the armada already deployed in the area. The preparations for a major offensive has reached a new level of urgency. On the other hand, Tehran responding with military preparedness of its own. Iran has announced the temporary closure of the Strait of Hormuz for live fire drills. Iran fired missiles to show its readiness. The missiles were fired from inside Iran and along its coast and struck their targets in the strait as part of large-scale maritime exercises. The Strait of Hormuz is a rare and potent signal. This strait is not just a shipping route, it is the world's energy choke point, and even the possibility of its closure is enough to send a message across global markets and into every capital that depends on oil. Adding to the show of force, Iran and Russia will conduct Navy drills in the Sea of Oman and the northern Indian Ocean on Thursday. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, issued a warning, saying even the strongest army in the world can sometimes get a strong response.
It seems to them that, and the US president keeps saying this, the US army is the strongest army in the world. The strongest army in the world may sometimes get slapped so hard that it cannot stand up straight. They say, we sent a ship to Iran. Of course, a warship is a dangerous vessel, but even more dangerous is the weapon that can send it to the bottom of the sea.
The latest round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran have concluded, and on the surface, the tone is optimistic. US President Donald Trump says Iran wants to make a deal.
I would say they're bad negotiators because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi speaks of progress and says a new window has opened, but asserts that it is hard to trust the Americans given the past. The core issue remains unsolved. Iran refuses to discuss its ballistic missiles program, a red line. The United States insists missiles, proxies, and regional militias must be part of any deal. Washington also demands Iran end uranium enrichment completely, even at civilian levels allowed under the 2015 nuclear agreement.
But the President of the United States is very much trying to find a solution here, whether it's through diplomatic options or through another option that means that the Iranians cannot have a nuclear weapon.
The question is not just, will talks succeed? The question is whether diplomacy can survive in an era where negotiations happen with missiles in the water and warships on the horizon. Because even if there is no deal, the cost of failure could be far greater than the cost of compromise.
Russia has sent a warship to Iran. Russia and Iran are set to embark on a drill. The naval exercises are taking place in the Gulf of Oman. This is the same area of the high seas where US Armada is stationed. These are images of the Russian corvette Stoiky arriving at the Iranian port of Bandar Abbas. This Russian ship is designed for multi-role operations, including anti-surface, anti-air, and anti-submarine warfare. The exercises will see warships of both nations maneuver alongside one another as American naval forces, including powerful US carrier groups, maintain a heavy presence nearby. Tehran says that a helicopter carrier belonging to the Navy of the Russian Federation has entered Iran's southern waters. The backdrop is unmistakable. The US has surged its naval presence in the wider region amid heightened pressure on Tehran. President Trump has deployed major assets, including carrier strike groups, to press Iran during tense indirect nuclear talks. The proximity of Russian and Iranian drills to an American carrier group is sending ripples through global strategic circles. Analysts see it as more than routine training. It is a signal of cooperation at sea, a message to a world watching the balance of power in West Asia and even beyond. The atmosphere in the region has shifted from tension to a hair-trigger alert. By embedding Russian assets into the Iranian defense perimeter, Moscow is creating a strategic shield. Earlier, Iranian media had announced that Tehran had fired live missiles towards the Strait of Hormuz. The missiles were fired as part of a maritime military exercise by Iran. Now, according to Iranian media reports, the war games, the duration of which is not specified, aim to prepare the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps for potential security and military threats in the strait. This follows US deployment of large naval force to that area. The Strait of Hormuz is a strategically significant waterway through which a large share of the world's energy supplies passes, making any military activity in the area a focus of international attention. It complicates any potential US strike plan, forcing American commanders to consider the catastrophic risk of hitting a Russian hull. Remember, Moscow has repeatedly released statements urging Washington to engage in dialogue and not to attack Iran.
Here's a warning from Iran, a threat from the top, and a message aimed straight at America's naval power. Welcome to Times XP, it's me, Dhriti Atri, and let's talk about the statement that came with chilling confidence. Not from generals, not from naval commanders, but from the supreme leader of Iran himself, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He has delivered a fiery warning, claiming that Iran possesses weapons capable of sending enemy warships straight to the ocean floor. And the message, it was not really vague. It appeared carefully timed, strategically delivered, and globally noticed. Because at the same time, a massive American warship is operating in the region. The nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln has been deployed as part of a rising military preparedness, and that too across Middle Eastern water. Well, this carrier is not just a ship, it's a floating military city packed with fighter jets, advanced missile systems, and thousands of naval personnel ready for rapid combat deployment. And now Tehran is sending a clear message that directly challenges their naval dominance here. Khamenei suggested that Iran's defense technology has kinda evolved far beyond traditional warfare. According to him, modern weapon systems, including their advanced missiles, their drones, their naval strike capabilities, could overpower even the world's most powerful fleet here. Well, it's not a military talk. No, it's not. It sounded like strategic psychological warfare, but this particular speech carried another layer, one filled with history. Khamenei declared that the United States has attempted to weaken Iran for nearly 5 decades, and it failed. He insisted that Iran has survived sanctions, political isolation, and military pressure, and according to him, it will continue to survive. Yet, amid the fiery warning, something unexpected appeared, right? The Iranian leader also urged caution about ongoing diplomatic engagement with the United States. Yes, even while issuing military threat, he hinted that negotiations must not be judged too quickly. Basically, it's a clear sign that diplomacy and confrontation are now moving side by side. Can you picture the global chessboard right now? American warships patrolling tense water, Iran showcasing missile and drone strength, and diplomats negotiating very quietly behind the doors. And every single statement, every deployment, every warning, it adds another layer of tensions to an already fragile region. Well, here is the real fear that is not just about weapons. It is about miscalculation, because when powerful militaries operate within striking distance of each other, even a small mistake can ignite a massive conflict. Well, the world is now watching closely. Is this a bold rhetoric meant to strengthen Iran's negotiating position? Or is it a warning that the next confrontation in the Gulf, it could become far more dangerous than anything ever seen?